So buckle up, patriots, because today's committee hearing didn't just go off the rails. It jumped the track, flipped 3 times, and somehow landed in a ditch labeled democracy. Handle with care. This is the kind of political melodrama that makes you question whether Congress is debating a nomination or auditioning for a season of Real Housewives of Capitol Hill. Now, before we roll this clip, let me set the stage. There are moments in government that make you proud, moments that make you hopeful. And then there are moments like what you're about to see that make you want to stand up in the gallery and yell, "Sir, have you tried following your own rules? Maybe just once?" This isn't just about one nominee. This is about the health of the institution itself, the process, the respect, the debate. You know those tiny little things the founders thought were important before we collectively started treating Senate rules like expired coupons. But don't worry, we're going to get into all of it, John style. So before we dive in, patriots, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment before this committee discovers a brand new rule against public engagement.
We'll go to Bovey's nomination. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, point of personal privilege.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, according to
personal-
Rule 4 of the committee, we have the right to continue to debate this nomination.
No.
I'm invoking Rule 4 of the committee. We have the right to debate this nomination.
You're
And
out of order.
I'm seconding
Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Booker's demand for a vote on his request to hear from the whistleblower.
Mr. Chairman, you should at least acknowledge my Rule 4 point of order.
You're out of order.
I don't understand this. What are you afraid of about even debating this,
I, by proxy-
putting things on the record, hearing from every senator? Dear God, that's what our obligations are. It's to state our reasons for debate. At least address the Rule 4 point of order that we're calling. There's no need to rush this. What are we afraid of? We're not pressing for the 2-hour rule like you all did when you were in the minority. We're simply asking for a credible amount of time to air our concerns before the vote. We respect each other in this committee. We respect the understanding that we have things to say. But yet we're doing this in a way that makes no sense to me, and it makes no sense to me because we're not trying to do things like force the committee to close or force a 2-hour rule. This is about understanding that people on this side have a responsibility to state their issues.
You're out of order?
Mr. Sir, you could call me out of order because this is out of order. This undermines the basic decency of this committee. Yes, maybe overrule a Rule 4, but at least address the Rule 4 point of order that senators were elected to debate issues and debate nominees. This is absolutely insane. What is the rush? Sir, I am interrupting because you're interrupting a regular point of order. At least address my point of order. I have the right to do that by the rules of this committee. If you want to overrule the rules of committee, then do so. But this is not in any way in order. You are obligated to address a point of order according to the rules of this committee. You could overrule me by a Senate vote. You're violating your own rules. The parliamentarian has been clear about this. The parliamentarian has been clear. You could overrule the point of order I'm doing, but you have to follow the precedents and procedures of this committee. This is outrageous that you're not allowing senators to have their fair say before a controversial nominee is being done. This is unbelievable. This is unjust. This is wrong. It is the further deterioration of this committee's integrity. With a person like this, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of hearing from Chris Coons? From hearing from one of my colleagues? From hearing from Adam Schiff? What is the fear here? Have at least the decency to have a vote on my point of order regarding Rule 4. I have respect for you, Mr. Chairman. We've served together for more than a decade, but this is outrageous. This is unacceptable. This is wrong. It is wrong. And why? Why? What is the rush to take another half hour to listen to people? What is the rush? What are we afraid of, Mr. Chairman? What are we afraid of? I do not understand why senators can't debate a nominee as we've done when both sides have been in the majority to take the time. What is the thing that you are so afraid of from hearing from my Senate colleagues? This is a violation of the precedents of this committee. We're not trying some stunt here to try to force a 2-hour rule like you all did when you were in the minority. We just want to be heard before a controversial vote. Sir, this is wrong, and you know it. You are a person of integrity. How could you be doing this? At least have a vote on my point of order. Sir, with all appeals to your decency, with all appeals to your integrity, with all appeals to past jurisdiction and past precedent, why are you doing this? This is outrageous.
This is a kangaroo court. That's all we have here,
This
Mr.
is
Chairman.
wrong. To violate your own rules without going by the mandates of the parliamentarian. This is unbelievable. There's a way to do this. If you want to force this through, if you want to ram this through, there's a way to do it in accordance to the rules as spelled out by the parliamentarian. It is simple. It is clear. There's a pathway to achieve what you're trying to achieve. But, sir, this lacks decency. It lacks decorum. It shows that you do not want to simply hear from your colleagues. This is absolutely wrong. And, sir, this is to me one of those moments where we are not showing common respect for each other on both sides. I have sat here when we were in the majority and listened to my colleagues' arguments, listened to their passionate statements, and then we voted. This is not that. This is us simply trying to rush through one of the most controversial nominees we've had under this presidential administration. Sir, God bless America. You are a good man. You are a decent man. Why are you doing this? What is Donald Trump saying to you that are making you do something which is violating the decorum of this committee, the rules of this committee, the decency and the respect that we have each other to at least hear each other out? I've sat through so many long speeches of my colleagues, heard their objections, listened with sincerity to try to see what their arguments are. But we are not doing that. Sir, this is wrong, and you know it. There are some people on this committee who are the least firebrand people, and they've walked out. Some of the least controversial people in the Senate, some of the people that worked the hardest to find bipartisan common ground have just walked out of this committee. And you don't even seem to care, but I know you do. I know your heart, Senator Grassley. This is wrong. I know the kind of person you are, and you know this is wrong. This is not necessary. What is another half an hour to allow senators to be heard? It's what the Constitution mandates. It's the ideals of the United States Senate. The world's most deliberative body should take a decent amount of time to deliberate. But here we're not doing that. Here we are jamming this through with some sense of false urgency. It's one thing not to hear from whistleblowers. It's another thing not to hold another hearing, but to not even allow my colleagues to have their moment to speak against this justice is just wrong. And I know you know this. I know you know this. The only time this rule has ever been overturned by both parties was done when one minority was trying to pull some stunt to stop the committee from hearing. This is not that. This is not the 2-hour rule. This is a basic element of the ideals of this committee, sir. It is the basic understanding of having debate and deliberation. It's a basic understanding of we can listen to each other even if we disagree, that we should have time and space and a forum to listen. Sir, this is just wrong in every way. It is wrong in every single way. This is an abuse of power. It's an undermining of the well-being and the integrity of this Senate and this committee that I for so long I've been so honored to be a part of. This is wrong, sir, and I join with my colleagues in leaving.
Let's roll it. Ooh, okay. Deep breath, patriots. If your eyebrows shot up at least twice during that hearing, congratulations, your democracy reflexes are still working. Let's talk about what we just witnessed, because that wasn't just a disagreement. That was the legislative equivalent of someone yanking the emergency brake while the car is still moving, and then pretending the sparks under the chassis are a normal Tuesday. Now, here's the thing. Committees, real committees, run on rules. Not vibes, not convenience, not I don't feel like it today. Rules. And those rules aren't just decorative participatory trophies. They exist so every voice in the room has a chance to be heard, not just the ones holding the majority gavel like it's a backstage VIP pass. What we saw was a refusal to even acknowledge debate, and that should bother anyone who believes in checks, balances, and grown-up governance. When you can't even pause long enough to let senators speak before ramming through a nomination, that's not efficiency. That's panic wearing an efficiency costume. And let me tell you something. When leadership starts acting allergic to conversation, that's your first red flag. Democracy doesn't crumble in one dramatic moment. It erodes in little procedural shortcuts, rushed votes, and the slow normalization of we don't have to listen to you. If you've ever wondered how institutions go from the world's most deliberative body to please stop kicking the furniture, this is exactly how. Not with a bang, with a refusal to hear each other out. And look, as a left-wing patriot, I'm not asking for kumbaya circles and scented candles. I'm asking for basic governance. If the process is sound, you don't have to fear debate. If the nominee is solid, you don't have to fear questions. If your argument can stand on its own, you don't have to shut the lights off early. But rushing through a controversial nominee while avoiding procedural obligations, that's the kind of energy you bring when even you know the foundation you're standing on is, let's say, structurally questionable. And what really struck me beyond the chaos, beyond the tension, is what it reveals about power. Because when process stops being shared and becomes something only one side gets to control, it's not just unfair, it's unsustainable. You can't govern a country of 330 million people with the maturity level of, if I ignore you hard enough, maybe the rules will disappear. Spoiler, they don't. But public trust does. This is why left-leaning patriots like me get loud about stuff like this. Not because it's dramatic, but because democracy requires patience. It requires debate. It requires discomfort. You cannot claim to love the Constitution and then treat deliberation like an optional suggestion at the bottom of a menu. And let's be honest, if the only way to advance your agenda is to silence everyone who disagrees, that's not governing. That's brute forcing a system designed specifically to prevent that kind of behavior. The founders had their flaws, but even they understood the danger of a majority that forgets the minority is part of America too. So what happens now? Well, hearings like this don't just expose tensions, they expose priorities. And what I saw was a majority more invested in speed than substance, optics than order, and loyalty than law. That's a dangerous cocktail, patriots, and no amount of procedural caffeine can hide the bitter taste it leaves behind. We deserve a Senate capable of hearing dissent without melting down like a laptop running 12 tabs in Chrome. We deserve transparency, not shutdowns of conversation. We deserve leaders who respect rules, especially the ones they don't like. Because if they can silence each other today, what makes you think they won't silence you tomorrow? And that's why we watch. That's why we call it out. And that's why channels like Magaadotes exist to remind anyone holding power on either side that the public is paying attention. And we're not here for shortcuts, tantrums, or procedural gymnastics. All right, patriots, if that breakdown resonated with you, tap that like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss the next political plot twist, and drop a comment telling me which Senate rule you think they'll forget next. Because at this rate, we might need popcorn and a rule book.